Heroes created by people's imagination live and commit their acts of bravery in our program, The Legend of Kazakhs. Legends are an invaluable cultural heritage passed down from generation to generation. Throughout their lives, human beings were always closely connected with the world around them. Along the whole historical path, man always was close to animals. One of these animals was the horse. The role that a horse plays in a person's life is difficult to overestimate. And in whatever sphere of human life one looks, one can always find a horse there. And especially in the life of Kazakhs, it is not conceivable without a horse. The horse has meant a lot for our ancestors, the ancient nomads. If the ancient nomadic tribes were not the first to domesticate the horse, they were among the first people in Central Asia to learn how to ride it. Previously, horses were used as pack animals for the transport of goods. Nomads also used their horses only for riding, whether hunting or war, considering them as a means of rapid movement, and continued to keep bulls for household needs and hard work. Sometimes, however, the horses were used to drag the covered wagons in which women and children moved from place to place. Again, this was if there was a need to do it as quickly as possible. Each nomad had at least one horse, but as a rule, there were significantly more of them. It is widely known that for nomads, horse meat has long been a national dish. From the milk of a horse, they prepare kummus, a very useful and nutritious drink. One can only guess when exactly people began to domesticate the horse. The traditions of horse breeding hide their roots in the great depth of the centuries. Many scientists suggest that the domestication of the horses began in Eurasia, and according to some sources, this was 6 millennia ago. Horses are surprisingly kind, sympathetic, and devoted animals. Until today, people cannot do without horses. But how did horses appear on our planet? Let's find out in one of our legends. Far from his small village high in the mountains, on the luscious green meadows, one man grazed his sheep. And he had a special gift. He understood the speech of animals, and he could even talk to birds. In addition, he knew all the medicinal herbs and roots and berries, and he could cook any curative broth. Many were healed and cured from serious illnesses. His faithful dog was always next to the man, and often in dark nights the dog would bark, driving away the hungry wolves from the plump white sheep. And the dog was a devoted friend. In the afternoon he helped to watch the flock, and at night he protected it from wild predators. The old clever falcon too was his friend, and he was watching vigilantly for the flying predator, dreaming of dragging a small lamb into his nest. In that long time on Earth, there were only wild animals and birds, dogs and sheep. Then one night, the man had a very bad dream. As soon as he woke up, he had this bad feeling, and his soul was troubled. "What's the matter, master?" the dog asked. "Look at us. Tonight a few strong lambs were born, and in the sky there is no cloud at all, and the weather will remain clear for a long time. Why are you unhappy today?" "No, I know," the man answered, and he scratched his dog tenderly behind the ear. "The weight has fallen on my heart. Maybe it's just a bad dream, or maybe..." And the man fell silent, thinking. "Why do you remain in your doubts? Ask the falcon. He can fly out to our village and find out what is happening in your house." "Thank you, friend. I think you're right. I probably will do that," said the man, and he whistled. Waving his broad, powerful wings, the falcon descended to them. "Has someone called me?" "Yes, I want to ask you, my faithful friend. Could you please fly out and find out what is going on in my village? Is everything okay? I had a bad dream today, and the spirits were talking something to me in a dream, but I couldn't understand their speech." "Well, my friend, I will fly off." The falcon waved his wings and flew away, whirling upward. And the man and the dog watched the falcon slowly dissolve into the bright blue sky, turning into a small dot. When the sun began to slowly go behind the horizon and the sunset painted mountains in a pink-red color, a small dot appeared in the sky and quickly began to approach. The dog and the man saw the returning falcon, and they froze in anticipation of the news. The bird dove down and flew to the ground, smoothly sinking into it. The falcon lowered his head and said, "I have some bad news for you, friend. Your father is sick. This is a serious illness that will not allow him to rise up. You need to hurry. You will give him healing herbal tea, and he will recover, but you must hurry." The man lifted his head to heaven and bitterly exclaimed, "I knew that trouble had come. I need to get home as soon as possible. But before I do, I must collect the medicinal roots and herbs, so that there will be enough for perhaps many days of treatment." "We will help you," the dog exclaimed, and the falcon and the lamb, who had also heard the bad news, were ready to help. The animals dispersed in search of the necessary herbs, and the man began to build a cart where one could put medicinal grass and roots. When everything was ready, the man began to hold advice with his animals and the falcon. "How can I get to the village faster?" he exclaimed. "Falcon, maybe you will lift me up? And then I can fly with the speed of the wind in the daytime, and we could be at home quickly." The falcon shook his head and said, "I'm sorry, but I can't lift you, nor your trunk loaded with herbs." The man looked at his dog. "Sit down," the dog exclaimed. "I'll be able to take you, and you'll keep your wagon firmly. I'll run along the shortest path. By tomorrow morning, we will be near your yurt." The man sat down on the dog, but the dog's legs slowly began to buckle. The dog wanted to make a single step, but then he fell down from the weight. No, it could not carry the man. "And you too, my friend, cannot help me," the man said bitterly. "Maybe I can," said the strongest and largest ram from the flock. "My legs and body are stronger than a dog's. I'm not as fast as your dog, but I'm hardy. I'm slow, but I don't stop. I will bring you home. I know a meandering, short mountain path. It's true that tomorrow we will only reach your home at night." The man sat on the ram. He restrained him and took several trial steps. Yes, he could carry the man. But the man began to slip off the sheep's silky wool. Unable to restrain himself on it, he fell to the ground. "Ah!" the man exclaimed. "I cannot go on you. It's just impossible." "Well, my friend, thank you, but I have to go myself with the cart to the village. I'll return to you only when my father gets on his feet." The animals said goodbye to the man and wished him a quick and easy way. The man stretched his arms to heaven and prayed, "Almighty, you see and know everything. How I wish I had wings like a falcon, or had fast and strong legs like a dog, or the stamina that a ram has, and then I could quickly reach home to my sick father." But the Almighty answered nothing. All night and all day the man walked with a cart. He descended from the steep mountains and crossed a river and deep ravines. His journey was heavy with a loaded cart. Descending from the mountains, the man went to the plains. The bright hot sun was burning, and the man was exhausted with thirst and fatigue. "Almighty, you see and you know everything. How I would like to drink a cool drink that would satisfy my thirst and give me strength so that I could continue my journey." But again the Almighty did not answer. The sun had set off behind the horizon. The yellow moon had come to replace it. A man was dragging a cart behind him with his last piece of strength. He had to stop to rest and gain his strength. Slowly he overcame his way home. "Almighty, you see and you know everything. How I would like to have a friend who would help me to carry this cart." But even this was not answered by the Almighty. For 2 days the man walked, day and night, and at last he saw in the distance small white yurts of his aoul. When he was near his house, he saw his tearful mother sitting by his father's bedside. His father was laying down with his eyes closed, breathing heavily, and his body was as hot as a stove. "Father," the son exclaimed, "I'm here now. I will help you. Now I will give you a potion, and it will take all of your pain away." They lit the fire, boiled water in the cauldron. He selected the right medicinal herbs and threw them into the boiling water, and then the roots. For a long time he boiled the broth, and finally the medicine was ready. For several days the man could not leave his yurt. He sat beside his father and sealed him off with a healing decoction. He greased his body with hot fat and wrapped him in a warm blanket. The father recovered. He stopped breathing heavily, and strength came back to his body. He rose to his feet, and he rushed to embrace his son with his mother. They flung open the canopy of the yurt so that the father could breathe fresh air and leave the house. They froze in astonishment. 2 unseen, wonderful animals stood near the yurt and peacefully pinched the grass. They were of incredible beauty. One is blacker than the night, and the other whiter than milk. They had a powerful and resilient body, long and strong legs, and the silk mane and tail that waved in the wind. The people stood in a daze and looked at the miracle, not knowing what to do. From the heights of heaven came the voice of the Almighty. "You thought I did not hear your request? No, I've heard everything, even your deepest thoughts. You live an honest and a good life. Therefore I have given you these 2 beautiful animals. They are called horses. The man looked at the sun-kissed meadow and upon his grazing sheep, while near his feet sat his faithful dog and stood a beautiful black horse. The man touched his mane on his hands and said, "Thank you, friends. Thank you, dog. You've guarded me, my house and my lambs. And with you, my horse, we will fly and overtake the wind. You drive my wagons and plow the land, and the horse gives tasty mare's milk, from which we may make kummus. And it's hard to say, what would I do without you?" the man said, as he looked up into the sky, where high in the clouds a falcon flew, and somewhere there, even higher, sat the Almighty. No other animal has taken such a significant place in the development of human civilization than a horse. It turns out that horses died out in North America approximately 20,000 years ago, and Native Americans, as you know, did not see these animals until they were brought to the mainlands by Europeans. But this did not stop them to become literally dashing riders in just a couple of generations. And if the horses had gone extinct in Eurasia, then it would have been hard to replace them in economic work and in war. This is because of their unique physical capabilities that no one could do. The horse's capabilities are really unique. These animals are one of two species of large ungulates with the ability to run for a long time. Neither forest nor savanna inhabitants have any value as labor. Only the steppe animals have colossal endurance. The donkeys were first tamed, and then came camels, and only then the horse. All breeds of horses existed in our time, and they are products of century-old selection, and we can say that a man created the modern horse. The horses have an excellent sense of smell, which allows them not to swallow spoiled food and foreign impurities with it. The horse has a majestic, almost perfect hearing. It perceives sounds that are not audible by a person. The horse not only catches the frequency of sound, but also distinguishes individual commands, melodies, and differentiates them and recognizes them. Horses have almost circular vision, about 300 degrees, which of course is very convenient, but it actually is quite noticeably inferior to the human. Horses are relatively short-sighted, so they often are shy. These animals have color vision, but less contrast than a man. And besides, horses in their main mass poorly see in the dark. Horses are able to catch smells that are not accessible to humans. On the territory of Kazakhstan, the ancient nomadic peoples mainly had modern prototypes of Mongolian horses. They lived outdoors all year round, and they searched for food on their own. They were horses of stocky build, with relatively short legs and a large head, and had some resemblance to the Przewalski horse. These horses are modest, hardy, smart, friendly, and very reliable. It is possible to enumerate for a long time all the spheres of human life in which horses were used in the past. And today, despite the general mechanization and use of new technologies, horses are not forgotten. Traditions are an element of culture that arise in one generation and is passed down from ancestors to descendants, staying in people's lives for a long time. Throughout the centuries, the traditions and customs of the Kazakh people have been and continue to be the main way of bringing up new generations to society. Everyone's life is closely connected to the sphere of the customs and traditions, which have significant and permanent impact on the attitude of the world around them. In the next program, we will talk about one national tradition, which has roots that go back far down into the centuries.